we're going to get started. My name is Gracie Wu. I'm the General Manager for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here at this workshop. Something that we put together this summer, Beyond Neighborhood Council. Because we're thinking, neighborhood council folks are pretty talented, and they are going places, not only in the neighborhoods, but in the city. And we felt that there needed to be a workshop that had some guidance in terms of next steps for neighborhood council members, whether it is running for office, or it is getting on a commission, or it is maybe getting actual paid job for the city, as opposed to being a volunteer elected official. With the help of Mike Fong, who did an amazing job putting together the first session. Yes, thank you, Mike. The Director of Policy and Government Relations, and an elected official himself, so he kind of knows what he's talking about when he's doing some of this stuff. We put together a great program that started in the Central Library, and we're taking it around the city, and we're just very excited about it. So, to let you know, I think we announced earlier, we are live streaming this. So if you have questions, please speak loudly, or we will repeat the questions so that we can capture it on the live stream for the folks who can't be here tonight. So before we get started and I introduce our first speaker, I just wanted to remind folks about our important election coming up, and we have partnered, I don't know if you've heard, with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs to get out the vote and get folks first registered. That's already passed, but now to encourage them to vote. So I have some cards for you. I'll pass them out. If you want to take them to your neighborhood councils and pass them out, please do. Obviously, it's a very important election, and we all want to be as involved as much as we can be, and neighborhood councils are a great way of encouraging the community to get out and vote. So with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is a mentor of mine, someone I look up to in the neighborhood council system. She is just an amazing person. If you know her, and if you don't know her, get to know her, because she is the president of the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council. Yes. Sunk in the house. Yes. Also the founder and chair of the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils. She is also sits on the LADWP board of commissioners, and has taught a class of how to run for office for 20 years. Is it 20 years at UCLA? So you are in really amazing hands in terms of how to run for office with our wonderful first speaker, Jill Banks Barad.
Thank you. This is on?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to see everybody, but I can't see the people on this side. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. I want to thank Gracie and Mike thank you for inviting me here. What I'm going to talk about is if you've ever thought about running for office, and really give you a dose of reality, because it's hard work. I've been a political consultant now for over 30 years, which means that I work with candidates running for Congress, the State Assembly, the Senate, City Council, School Board, Judge, and also work on ballot initiatives throughout the state. And I developed the strategy, the message, and started in this business, actually, as a fundraiser, as a political fundraiser. And then I decided that I wanted to do more than political fundraising. I wanted to do what the big boys do. And so I wanted to do the strategy and do all the campaigns. So I do a lot of writing. My mail, everything has been mailed now. I just did 2 million pieces of mail that you'll probably get and throw away in 2 seconds. But That's political mail for you. Anyway, I teach a class, I've been teaching at UCLA Extension on political PR, media, and how to run for office. And a lot of the people that come to this class are thinking about running for office. And the first thing I ask them, which I would say to you if you're thinking of running, is what is your message? Who are you? What is your story? Why do you want to run? And what are you running for? There could be the school board, the community colleges, city council, or like Kevin James, just run for mayor. What are you running for and why? What's your interest? And what's your message? If you run against an incumbent, somebody who's already in office, it's much more difficult than running in an open seat. Because if you run against an incumbent, you have to do really two things. First of all, you have to convince voters that why they should not run. They should not vote for the incumbent. And what's wrong with that? And then the second thing is, if they don't vote for the incumbent, who's the alternative? Which would be you. And why should they vote for you instead? So it's really a double prong. The other thing, if you're thinking about running against an incumbent, the incumbent always has the advantage because they have all the resources. They have a list, their Rolodex full of known supporters, people they've gotten money from, in most cases the unions, people who are hedging their bets are not going to give money to somebody else against the incumbent in case they win. So it's very difficult. Now in an open seat, now we have that in CD7, where we don't have the incumbent because Fuentes now has gone to Sacramento. We have a lot of people running. And where I live, CD4, we had a lot of people running as well for that seat. And that was the Tom LaBonge seat, and he was turned out. So a lot of people ran. So if you're going to run for an office and you decide, okay, this is what I'm going to run for, you decide what you're going to run, you should look and see what people who have run for that office and won, how much money did they raise and how much did they spend. And that's all public information. And you get that through the Secretary of State's office or the Registrar Recorder in LA. And you can look up and see what they raised. And you can see everyone who gave them money, because we're all required to post how much everybody gave and how they spent the money. And then you can see how close you're going to come to that. And in LA, in California, it really costs a lot of money to run for office. I mean, to run, even for judge, if you're an attorney, you want to run for the LA Superior Court, which is a huge district, the County of Los Angeles, it's probably going to cost you about $200,000. If you want to run for the Assembly, you're north of $500,000. So think about, where would you get the money? Who's going to give you the money? Now, if you got a rich daddy, like some candidates do, or you're going to self-fund, that's a whole different thing. You don't have to ask people for money. But most of us are not that fortunate, and we have to ask people for money. And one thing I can tell you as a professional political fundraiser, no candidate likes to ask for money. It's just something they have to do, because how else are you going to get the money? Now, if you say, and I've heard this many times over the past 30 years, well, I'm not going to ask for money because I'm going to run a grassroots campaign. To a professional, what that says is, I'm never going to have any money, and I'm not going to win. Because there is no such thing as a really grassroots campaign. Even a grassroots campaign requires you to print something a flyer, something about you, a brochure that says who you are. If you're going to walk door to door, you have to leave something at the door. And how do you know where to walk and how to target your message? Who's your voter? If you think you're going to run for office, who's your audience? Who do you think will vote for you? Now in CD7, it's very interesting because we have someone running who probably will go after every Armenian vote that there is. We have some others who are going to go after every Latino vote that there is. And it goes on. And then we have someone who's moved in who probably will go after the white boys vote. So you have to think, who is your audience and how are you going to target it? And that's where a campaign consultant comes in, because what we do is we analyze the district. We take a look at it in terms of demographics. Who's there? How many are homeowners? How many live in apartments? How many Democrats? How many Republicans? How many declined estates? And so on. And we can analyze that district and how many seniors are there. And then we can give you an idea of who lives in that district so that you can target your message. When you go around talking to people, particularly if you're going to go get endorsements from elected officials or community leaders or people who you want to give you money, let's say labor unions, then the three questions that you're going to be asked the most often are, first of all, who's your campaign consultant? It does not mean your day-to-day person who answers the phone and makes appointments for you. It means your consultant, your strategist, person who's going to write your literature. That's important because that says you're serious, that you're going to hire a professional and you're serious. The second question is, what's your budget? So if you're running for city council and you say, well, I think I'm going to have about 100,000, they know you're not serious because the districts are too large in Los Angeles. Our districts for city council are over 250,000 people. So you have to give a realistic budget to show you're serious. That's why you have to look it up with the Secretary of State or the Registrar Recorder to see what kind of money was spent to win that seat in the past. The third question you're going to be asked is, who's endorsed you? Well, people who endorse want to know who else has endorsed. Who thinks you're good? Who thinks you're great? For example, now in the Senate district in the West Valley, Henry Stern now is in the runoff with Fazio. Steve Fazio, that's a Democrat versus a Republican. Well, you know, Henry Stern has got some pretty powerful endorsements. You know, he's got Sheila Puhle, Bob Hertzberg, Yaroslavsky. Those are powerful endorsements for Democrats. And then who does Steve Fazio have on the Republican side? So you wanted, those endorsements are important. You want to get community leaders, elected officials, people whose opinion matters. And that is really important. And then you want everybody you can possibly get. Every neighborhood council leader, and so on. Homeowners association. Let's see. If you are thinking about running, and I get this all the time, people say, well, I want to run for city council. If you don't have an idea of who your target is, where you're going to get the money, then I would suggest you move to a smaller city. You know, Burbank, for example, is 1/3 of the size of one of our city council districts. Huntington Beach, small cities where you can actually walk precincts, every precinct, where it would be less money to run. But if you want to run in Los Angeles, the districts are very large. The community college board, where Mike is, very large. It's beyond the city because of the community college. So think about the reality of what you want to do. And also, if you want to run for the school board, if you have some interest in schools, let's say you're active in charter schools, magnet schools, or you don't like the way the public schools are, you have some kind of gripe, and you can do better, you want to run for school board, remember that the school board is very much controlled by the teachers union. And this last election where Scott Schmerlison ran against Tamar Gallatin, the incumbent, it was the charter schools against UTLA. So you have to think, what is my connection? Where am I going to get the money to run for the school board? Same thing, community college. Community college, a lot of it is union money. And then, of course, you want to be on slates as well. So that's kind of a taste of reality. I would think that once you're on a neighborhood council, you think, I think I'd like to run, for public office. It's a great goal, and I wish you well, and try. But talk to a consultant, see what they think the chances are, how it's all going to shape, together. And, people look at, for example, Ron Galprin, who's our city controller, who was on the neighborhood council, and then now is our controller. But he didn't just go from neighborhood council to controller. From neighborhood council, he went to a commission. They don't even call it that, what it is anymore. It's productivity and efficiency, and it was a long name. But you know what he did? That commission, nobody ever heard of that commission. But when Ron Galprin got on it, he got interested in some real wonky things. And he made a name for himself. And he used that as his springboard so that when he ran for controller, he was able to say, when I was on this efficiency and productivity committee, we looked at this and this and this and this. And that was a good way in. He also went from neighborhood council to and the commission. Before he ran for controller, he ran for city council. I don't know if you know that, but he ran when Paul Koretz ran for CD5, and there was a lot of people running, and he didn't win. And this is an interesting story. I was supporting Paul Koretz, and didn't know Ron very much, although I was impressed with him when I heard him speak. And he asked if I would go out to lunch with him, and I said, okay. We went out to lunch, and I said, Ron, why did you invite me to lunch when you know I'm supporting your opponent? And he said, because if I don't win, I'm going to run for something else, and then I'm going to come back to you. Now, how smart was he? So when he ran for controller, he came back, and I was there with him from day one. So, know who you're talking to. Be nice to everybody on your way up, because you might meet them on the way down. And, that's how he got to be controller. It's not easy. And when you run for office, it's difficult. I will tell you that there are highs and lows, tremendous emotional highs and devastating lows. When somebody who's been your best friend forever, and you say, I'm running for office, will you support me? And they say, well, who else is running? It hurts. So you have to have a thick skin. So thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
I've often wondered why anybody wants to become a true write-in candidate.
Well, some people, I've never understood it, run for the exercise of running. And I don't get it, because it's hard. And a write-in candidate doesn't win. Like, our third party candidates don't win, but and I've had people who say to me, in fact, right now in this election that I know of, running different areas of the state, well, I put my name in, I'm not going to spend much money, I don't want to ask people for money, if I win, I win, if I don't have, well, I'm sorry, I can't work for that, because that's not, that's not reasonable, and, you know, that's not a real candidate. So I don't get write-ins. I mean, look, it's your right to do it.
You have to be approved.
Yes. Are you thinking of doing
No,
it?
just been puzzled.
Yeah, it's puzzling. But people want to try it, right? People want to try it. And you know, people always think, I can do better than so-and-so. I can do better. You know? Yeah.
Writing candidates, is that when you get all your, let's just say you're required to get a certain amount of signatures, right?
Yes.
Is that what it becomes if you don't get all the signatures by the city, you can run as a writing, what do you call it, a written candidate, right? Is that how you do it?
Well, everyone, any race, whatever it is, you have to get a certain amount of signatures. You have to circulate your petitions, and you have to get signatures to run for anything. Anything. And then, I'm not sure, the write-ins, I think if they're not in by a certain time, they get to be write-ins. I'm not sure how they become certified write-in candidates.
Because I wasn't sure, I was asked to run as a writing candidate because most of my signatures, there were not enough for the city required.
Uh-huh.
So they asked me to run
Oh.
several years, but I didn't have knowledge, you know, the knowledge that I needed to run as that. That's why I'm still trying to figure out.
Well, so what was that race?
Well, I was supposed to have 500 legit signatures. I collected 860.
Uh-huh.
But then they said I only had legit signatures, voters, 400 and close to 80. So I was missing some signatures.
You were missing signatures?
I wasn't missing, the rest of them were not legit signatures.
Oh, the other people were missing, so they're not on the ballot?
No, it was me who was not on the ballot.
Well, who was missing signatures?
Well, I had more than what the city requires.
Yes,
But not 500 that you require.
That were good.
Yes.
that were good.
Yes, I meet the 500.
Right, you have to have the signatures that are actual voters that live where they say they live.
Right.
Otherwise, they're not good. That's why you always turn in more than you need.
Yeah, I understand that part.
Yeah.
What I didn't understand was that I was asked if I wanted to still run as a writing candidate. So,
Who asked you that?
a few couple of people. But
Not the city.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that really works. I don't know, is it past the deadline for that?
There is a deadline, yes.
Yeah,
It's after.
this is after.
After the regular filing.
It's after filing closes. Yeah, which it has, yeah. Okay, yes,
Can you talk a little bit more about funding, when you talk about running for office? You know, what's the lowest people will go to get funding? I know there's certain amounts that you can get from your friends or from organizations, but can you just talk a little bit about how they secure funding?
well, each office is different and has different requirements and limits. And when you run in the city, the first money is matchable from personal contacts. So if somebody has to write you a personal check, and then the city will match it. But each one is different. You can only, I think for the city now, the maximum is, I think, $750 a person. And now it's interesting for judge, there's no limits. You can give whatever you want to give to someone who's running for judge. But every office has got a different maximum. And if you run, you have to find out what that is. Yeah.
Do you do consulting for like smaller cities such as La Cañada?
Yes.
Okay.
You live in La Cañada.
Like,
But
can I have your business card?
yeah. Okay.
Another question. Okay, let's say you want to run for the state assembly or city council. When you want to start raising your money, right? Let's just say, can you lend yourself,
Yes.
a certain amount of money so you can start your campaign?
Well, first of all, you can't start to raise money or spend money until that period opens.
Yes.
Okay, when that opens, you can lend yourself money, any amount, and you can pay yourself back. And normally what candidates do is you have to declare it, and you pay yourself back at 0% interest. Now, some candidates, as money comes in, will pay themselves back. Others wait till the very end so they're sure that they have money to spend on the race. But usually candidates will lend themselves money at the very, very beginning to kick it off so that they can print the first literature, hire their campaign consultant, in some cases open up a headquarters. That's what we call seed money, and that's usually from the candidate themselves.
There's no conflict.
No conflict, yeah.
With the city and you and the stakeholders. So I have been asked, some stakeholders have asked me, or comics that they probably would not vote for me because I'm the one lending the money for my campaign.
You're lending it to yourself.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't believe in yourself, then who does? You know, and then when you go to get your first money, you should go really to your friends, your family, people who've always said, you know what, you want to run for office. Well, guess what? Now I'm running. Let's have it. You know, write the check. And you can't be shy. You can't be shy. You have to say, 500, I would love 500. Then when they give you the check for 50, you say, wait a minute, you forgot a zero. Yeah, and lady back here?
You said that in addition to your consultant, who would you consider to be integral for a person who's running for office for the first time? How large a team, or what, if you could only, besides fitting you and your consultant, who else should you be bringing to the table for you as a team supporting you?
Besides a consultant? Well, first, you're going to need a treasurer. And I would not use your neighbor, your husband, or whoever, your son. There are campaign treasurers who do that professionally. That's what they do. And I used to do it for my clients. I don't anymore because the rules now are so complicated that better to have somebody who's a professional treasurer do that. And what they do is open up your bank account for you. And they file all your papers with the Secretary of State. You cannot raise any money or spend any money until you file with the Secretary of State and you get what's called an ID number. Once you get the ID number and you have your bank account, then you can start raising and spending money. So first, your treasurer, then your campaign consultant, and as time goes on, depending on what race it is, you might have what they call campaign managers, which is kind of a day-to-day person that schleps your stuff, maybe drives you someplace. Then it may be a scheduler because there's a lot of debates and meetings and things like that. You want someone to keep track of your calendar. Yeah. Okay.
What about a
Oh,
consultant?
I didn't see. Okay.
How much do consultants and treasurers charge?
All different amounts. Consultants, usually it's a fee for the race, and it can vary anywhere from, let's see, maybe 10 to 12,000 to 40,000, depending on what it is, what the budget is. If there's a huge budget, they charge more. If it's a media, then usually they'll charge 15% of the media buy, and that's where a lot of consultants make their money. For citywide races, countywide, it is the placing of the media buy and the ads. They make 15% of that, which is a lot of money. The treasurers usually will charge one kind of lump sum to start you to file your papers, and then an hourly after that, depending on how many. They usually charge you by how many checks come in. If it's going to be a campaign with a lot of checks coming in, they'll charge you more because it's more report. They have to report everything, and you can't take any cash at all in any campaign. So they have to report how much, who it's from, everything. And there are reporting periods, and we're all watched very, very carefully of campaign reporting. Yeah. Howard?
Yeah. Is opposition research part of the consultant's job?
Usually that's a different firm, opposition research. And there's some really good ones in California, and that's what they do. They look into, the opposition, your opposition, and what bodies are buried, what tapes they may have, what open mics where they said things. They look at all of that, and that's really important. Opposition research, yeah. Okay.
Let's give Jill a little round of applause. She's a amazing leader here, and somebody who's very knowledgeable about how to run for higher office. So she will be around. She'll be sharing more insights in the next panel as well. But at this time, we're going to be going into our next portion of the program, and that's how to run for higher office. And then usually a presentation from the city clerk's office. So we're going to run through some slides at this moment in time. And good evening again, everyone, and thanks for being here. If anybody wants to grab a drink, soda, water, we have it at the table over there. We're going to be going over briefly some presentations on the mechanics of running for office. And if at any time anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll do our best to answer those questions at this time. So this is a very timely workshop, and thank you so much to Gracie and to the department staff and to each and every one of you for being here today and for your leadership and efforts with the neighborhood council system. On this brochure here, this very handy-dandy brochure from the city clerk's office, it talks about the Los Angeles City Election 2017 cycle. And it's talking about the elections for the Los Angeles City Council, for the citywide offices, and for the Los Angeles Unified School District, and the Los Angeles Community College District. And it really goes over each of those items, and it goes over what the terms are, what seats are open, goes over occupational designation, and different aspects as to how to run for office. So first thing is that you want to declare an intent to become a candidate, and workshops are happening starting now over the next few weeks. So if anybody's interested, please attend one of the workshops that are coming up, hosted by the city clerk's office. As you heard from Jill, everything is very transparent. You have to file a Form 700, which pretty much discloses all your finances, interest in property and real estate, and just everything else. You also have to do nominating petitions. As you heard earlier, the signature process is a very intense process, and you heard from somebody earlier that circulating petitions is very much a process where you want to make sure you're following all the rules, having a core team of volunteers on the ground helping you out. You want to have a crew of maybe 10, 20, 30 people helping you gather signatures in a very short time frame. You only have about a month to gather signatures. You need to submit at least 500 signatures from voters in your district that you're running in, and you can submit up to 1,000. As you heard earlier, that process is one step in the process of running for office. And when you submit those signatures, before you even submit them, you want to cross-reference them in a voter data file. So if you have access to a voter data file, that's something else that costs money in the political process. But buying a PDI, the political data information database, you can cross-reference the voters that have signed your petitions. Sometimes somebody might leave out a number on a petition. Somebody may not sign the petition. So those are signatures that you may want to cross off before you even submit them to the city clerk's office. Because the city clerk's office has very strict rules as to how many signatures you can submit. So if you're running for city council, you must submit at least 500 valid signatures, but not more than 1,000. So just to be safe, you might want to gather 1,200, you might want to gather 1,500 signatures, and then you have your core team of volunteers cross-reference them in the database. And you cross off the ones that you know for sure are not valid. You don't want to submit anything that you know is not valid because you're just wasting that signature line there, and you want to make sure that everything you submit is you dot your I's and cross your T's, and it's a specific process that the city clerk's office will go over in the candidate briefing workshops. And in the petition circulating workshops, they also talk about best methods on how to gather valid signatures, resources available, the do's and don'ts of signature gathering. And this process goes by really fast. So in a span of 3 or 4 weeks, you want to make sure you gather those signatures, but you want to submit them early to the city clerk's office where they can verify them. Usually it takes them at least a day or 2 days. But if you start submitting your petitions towards the end of the process, when a lot of candidates submit them towards the end, it might take them 3 or 4 days to verify your signatures. By then, your time is starting to run out in terms of when you can, if you submit your signatures and they find that they're not valid or you don't have enough valid signatures, if you submit them early enough, then you have enough time to go back out there to gather additional signatures. But if you submit them too close to the deadline and you don't give yourself enough time to resubmit, then that's something that you don't want happening in your candidacy. So I really encourage everybody who's going to run for office to go attend a petition circulating workshop and have your volunteers who are going to be helping you gather signatures attend that workshop as well. The fact that you're going to have somebody gather 20 signatures for you, 40 signatures for you. Each sheet has a space for 20 signatures, and they'll give you up to 100 sheets, and they're all notarized, they're individually numbered, so it's very much a very scientific process. And once again, you want to have a core team of volunteers cross-referencing those signatures on your voter files as well for your district. Sorry, it's a lot on there. Hopefully the information is a little bit helpful here. Candidacy requirements, obviously got to be a registered voter. For residency, for city offices and for LUSD, that was on October 8th. And then if you're running for Los Angeles Community College District, you have to be a resident as of filing. And as you heard from Jill earlier, the Los Angeles Community College District, you can be a resident of the city of Los Angeles, which is about 4 million people, or you can be a resident of about 35 cities that surround Los Angeles, including Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Culver City, as far east as Montebello. If you're running for city attorney, then you have to be qualified to practice law. The city clerk's office can answer a lot of these questions. The phone number's up there. It's also on the brochures as well. And the city clerk's office is very punctual. They're open at 8 o'clock and they close at 5, and they close at 5 on the dot. So if you get there at 5:01, you're gonna have to come back the next day. And it's only a 1-week time frame to really see who's running. So if you file on a Monday, then you're probably one of the first candidates to file. But and the information is uploaded on the city clerk's website each night. So each night you can check the website to see who else is running in your race. You always have a good sense as to who else may be running for that particular seat. But until that person files the intent, unless they tell you, unless you know from the other sources, it's always good to check the city clerk's website each night. And on Saturday, November 12th, they close office at 12 o'clock that day, and that's the close of filing. As you heard earlier from Jill, you want to make sure you file a statement of economic interest, and that's with the City Ethics Commission. So when you file your paperwork also, you'll have an opportunity to visit the Ethics Commission's folks. They'll be right next door to the city clerk's office, and they can actually review your materials right then and there if there's nobody else online. If there's somebody else online, you want to make sure you budget some time for that process as well. So the nominating petitions, as you heard, is from Jill and from another folks in the audience. It's a very crucial part of the process. And the first day you can obtain them is November 12th. Spare yourself some time that day because everyone's going to be there who's running for office, and they do it pretty much one by one. So you want to allow yourself some time to be there. Don't be in a rush to go anywhere else. And then from there, you might want to have your volunteers there as well to help disseminate some of your petitions for you, because each day is crucial in the process. As you know, the holidays are around in the middle of that time frame, so a lot of folks may be taking vacations or out of the area. And you might hear from other folks, but matching funds is a crucial part of the process too. And if you're able to qualify for matching funds, you need to get a number of voters within that particular district you're running in as well. You heard the crucial number, at least 500. If you can turn up to, when you submit, if you're going for the 500 part, then you have to pay a filing fee of $300. And you can submit up to 999 signatures if you're going the 500 route. If you're going for the 1,000 valid signatures route, you can submit up to 2,000 signatures. But whichever way you decide to do this process, you want to make sure that you're 100% right. If you have 999 signatures that are valid, but you decide to go through the second part of the route, you're not going to qualify on a ballot. If you know you have at least 500 valid signatures, and you can afford the $300 filing fee as part of your campaign finances, you can submit up to 999 signatures. But you as a candidate and you and your team have to decide which process you want to go through. But I highly recommend that you check each signature. It takes hours, but check it against the voter file, because a lot of time when you might circulate your petitions, sometimes people may forget their address or give you a wrong birthday or something, and you want to make sure that the information on there is valid. This is the general information pamphlet, so everyone should have a copy of this. If not, we have more copies at the front. And please attend one of the candidate briefing workshops. Those are usually about 2 hours at the city clerk's office at Piper Tech, and it's a very helpful process. Anybody that's helping you in your campaign, I would highly recommend that they go to this workshop as well. And the petition circulating workshops, this is actually brand new. It wasn't around back a couple years ago, but I think now it's a very helpful process, because there's also a lot of questions about the petitions and who can circulate them and things like that. So I highly recommend this workshop if you are running for office or you're helping somebody who's running for office. And that's information for Piper Tech. Lene Basudo, she sends her regards. She's actually the principal city clerk for the city clerk's elections division, and they're doing all the workshops coming this week, next week. So she sends all these packets and information here. And also, you can subscribe on the city clerk's website for additional updates. Are there any questions on this, on the mechanics of this process? No? Glenn?
Is this PowerPoint going to be on the cordially webpage?
Yes, if you registered and you've given us your email, we'll send out a thank you email after this, and we'll have the PowerPoint available to everybody. And we'll upload it on our website too. No further questions? All right, I'd like to bring up our panelists. Thank you guys. And thank you guys so much again for attending. We're going to start with our next session. We have 4 amazing panelists that are going to be coming here to share their experiences on how to get on a city commission. And each of them has a unique story. A number of them have been involved with the neighborhood council system for a number of years. One has run for mayor of Los Angeles, is now the president of the Board of Public Works. We have the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners president. We have a former planning commissioner, and we have a current Department of Water and Power commissioner. And they all have amazing stories, and we're going to hear from each and every one of them. I encourage you to ask questions as well. This is the meat of the presentation, and really I encourage you to glean jewels of knowledge from each and every one of them. And we're very honored that each of them has made time out of their busy schedules to be with us today. As they get set up, we'll get started shortly. All right, so the way we're going to do this panel is each panelist is going to have. It's on? Okay, we're going to turn it off right now.
Yeah, walk it by. Projector and tanning studio.
Yeah.
Thank you. Still in pain, walking by.
All right, we have 4 amazing panelists. They all have amazing, unique stories, and they're going to be sharing with us tonight. So I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Commissioner Len Shaffer, the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners President. We have Department of Water and Power Commissioner Joe Banks Barad. We have Board of Public Works President Kevin James. And we have former Planning Commissioner Quinn Bo Ramirez. And each of them has an amazing story that they'll be sharing with us tonight. I'd like to open it up where each commissioner will have an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes and to share any opening remarks. We'll start with Commissioner Shaffer.
Oops, sorry about that. Okay. Good evening, welcome. Glad you can all be here. you have to enjoy volunteering. I'm going to start by saying that. And most of you here are people who do volunteer. It's a lot of fun, and if you can combine it with the rest of your life, that's wonderful. Let me say that being on the board of neighborhood commissioners, I like to say that it's one of the few commissions where you get hollered at if you don't do something, and then you get hollered at when you do. And that can be fun because you really do get to know people. And you get to know what they want and what they don't want and what they like and what they don't like. The other thing that I really enjoy about it is we're, I guess, really the only commission that goes around the city and meets in different parts of the city once a month. Commission used to meet twice a month, but because of budgetary constraints, we only meet once a month. And it gives you a real opportunity to get out and meet stakeholders all over the city. It also gives you a wonderful chance to find out the fact that Los Angeles has some really, really great places to eat all over the city. Very seriously, great hidden jewels. And that's also a lot of fun. But the biggest thing is that you do get to go out. Sometimes you see the same people. I won't mention some of them because you aren't happy to see them each time they come to your meeting. But other times, you know, it's new people. You get to see people from the north part of the valley all the way down to San Pedro, to Harbor Gateway, out to West Los Angeles, to the east side. And that, to me, is one of the most rewarding parts of being on the board of neighborhood commissioners, is being able to see people, to interact with them, and to find out how they function and what they want and what they'd like to see us do.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Shaffer. Commissioner Joe, thanks for all.
Thank you, thank you. Well, you know, in the past, I think historically, when someone got appointed to a major commission, it was because they had given money to the mayor who does the appointing. And that may be a little bit true now, but not as much so. And I think it's very interesting to point that out because when it was made public that I was appointed to the DWP Commission, the LA Times reporter called me and his first question to me was, "How much money did you give Eric?" And I said, "Very little, you know, very little." "And really? Did you raise money for him?" "No." Things really have changed for the good. And I just need to tell you this story. There was a woman that I met, by the way, when you're a commissioner, you have to get fingerprinted. So we met getting fingerprinted, and she said to me, I said to her, "What commission are you on?" And she said, "I've been appointed to the police commission." And she said, "Wow, that's, you know, that's something." And she said, "What are you being appointed to?" I said, DWP. She said, "Oh my God, you know." Because those are the two that are the most controversial and really in the spotlight and very intense. Well, this woman who was appointed, she had never met Eric Garcia, let alone given him money. But she was a constitutional law professor at Loyola, and he heard about her and appointed her to the police commission. And I think that says something about the mayor, that he wants good people, not just people who, you know, pay to play. And on my commission, I really did not apply to be on a commission. I didn't think too much about it. I was very active in volunteering and in my professional life. And I know some of you have heard this story, you can know if you have. But I was in Ralph's in front of the fish department, and my cell phone rang, and I said, "Hello," and he said, "Hi, it's Eric." And I said, "Oh, hi, Eric." And he said, "Listen, I want you on a commission, and here's what I want you to be on. I want you to be on DWP." And that's how I found out. He gave me no choice, really. And he said, I promise to reform this DWP. And I know you, and I know you're going to ask the tough questions, and you're not afraid to shake things up. And that's where I want you on that commission. So I think it's interesting that the mayor is looking for people to do things who have had a history of achievement and leadership in the city. And if I can impart just one thing to you, it's to do something in your community. Make a difference. I can't get any taller. Make a difference in your community. And I had founded the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, and then I've been president or chair of Bank Valley Alliance and Neighborhood Council now for, 14 years. And it was blood, sweat, and tears to do that because it's a long story, but they didn't want us to do it. And we were, but we pursued. And I think that the mayor knew about that, and I think I'm the community voice on the DWP, plus the only person, from the valley. And I think that if you have some achievement, like, Catherine Kim, who was on police commission, who was an attorney, and myself, who really has been a leader in the community, then you're really serving your community. And the DWP is very intense. It's very controversial. We meet twice a month, all day. However, in between there are briefings, there's an enormous amount of reading that we do. And then there are press conferences and special meetings and whatever. It's a lot of hard work. And if the mayor calls you and says, oh, it's just a couple days a week, it's a lot of work. And we're not paid. People think that we're paid DWP, but we're not, even though it's really almost like a half-time job. There's only one commission that's paid. And and he'll tell you about that. And that's why he looks always so good, so cute. But it's a lot of hard work, but I have to tell you that I feel that it's my civic responsibility to serve the city. And I feel this is a great time to be on the DWP because I've made a big difference. I've seen the improvement in the last 4 years since I've served. And that's really, worth everything, that when you know that you're making a difference in the city.
Thank you. Let's give Commissioner Joe Banks Barad a round of applause. I'd like to pass it over now to Board of Public Works President Kevin James.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you all for coming. And Gracie and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment for putting on this panel and the workshop. I think it's very timely and very helpful. Just a couple of things on that before I move to my story a bit. I'm really happy that I got here on time to hear Jill's presentation. You all got excellent advice on what Jill provided, and it was really put in a nice, succinct format that was easy to understand, and gives you a real sense of what it takes to run a serious campaign. That's why you're here. And Jill is the best in the business and has been at it for a very long time. So that was a real treat for everyone. And one takeaway from what followed is the petition gathering process. That is, it's not intended to be full of traps, but it is. And that's the one thing that people that I think could be better candidates can fall into. It's very difficult. In my race, I had the luxury of being able to gather signatures from anyone that lived in the city of LA, period. If you're running for a city council seat, it's got to be in your council district. Same number of signatures, by the way. And that is a real challenge. So my advice, piggybacking from what Jill said, one, echoing everything that she said because it was incredibly helpful, but on top of that, take the petition gathering process very seriously. Or people that if you know that they're running for office, tell them to read and triple read everything. Now, and I'm thrilled, Mike, that you guys are having a workshop on that. Very, very helpful. I do tell people you don't have to come in third in a mayor's race to get appointed to the Board of Public Works. which it's true, I'm the only one of those. But the Board of Public Works is the only full-time paid commission in the city. It is a full-time job, and in many ways it's more than a full-time job. I get asked this fairly frequently, and I've had the chance to tell the press, and just last night at an event I was asked about just serving in this role, and I've been lucky enough over my career, I've been here, May will be 30 years, and I've been lucky enough in my career to have a diverse career, and this is frankly far and away my favorite job of the jobs I've had, and I've been lucky to have some interesting jobs. Mike Fuhr asked me yesterday if I thought when I took this job I would still be in it in year 4. I don't necessarily think that I probably did when I took the job. But I plan on staying now. And the advice that I would bring on, well, my story on getting to the commission, I had a phone call similar to the phone call that Joe received from the mayor-elect. They'd not been sworn in yet. And they moved pretty quickly on the Board of Public Works Commission. That's typically the first one they'll fill with a new mayor because it is a paid full-time position. And we meet 3 times a week. We meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning. And there's a lot of work that has to be done, so those commission seats don't sit vacant for long. And the mayor knew from our debates, we debated 42 times in the primary, what my priorities were. For his purposes, they were generally one of 2 things, economic development or infrastructure. And the Board of Public Works Commission fit well, obviously, for infrastructure. And it was also something that the mayor also knew that I didn't criticize in city government. You know, you got a call from the LA Times asking how much money you'd given. I got a call from the LA Times the next day asking if I had taken positions in the debates against the work that the Board of Public Works did. And I knew I hadn't, so did the mayor's staff know. And it was one of the things that I thought worked well in the city. And I had all kinds of reasons explaining that. And I explained it to the reporter, and of course the story didn't get written. They weren't going to write the positive side of that story. But the fact that the story didn't get written indicated that they couldn't find any tape or video of me being critical of the Board of Public Works or campaign materials or anything on the internet. And so it was a good fit for me. All of that to say, for a commission appointment, and it's daunting, yes, because it's more volunteer work and it's hard work and it's important work, but it's incredibly fulfilling work. So in your own experience, one of the great things about the neighborhood council system is all of the assets we get. It's all of you and your very diverse backgrounds and experience, and that's what the commission system is set up to be too. So it's your unique experience and what you're passionate about to get on a commission. And what I tell anybody that's interested in being on a commission, don't wait for the mayor to call you. You call them. Call the mayor's office of, there's a staff member, her name's Claudia Luna, and let them know if you're interested in being on a city commission, what your passion is, and what you're interested in, because commission seats and commissioners themselves rotate on and off of the numerous commissions in the city of Los Angeles, so they're oftentimes looking to fill a seat.
Thank you, Commissioner James. Let's give a big round of applause for all three. I think our public works and for sharing great insights. Now, this is an issue that neighborhood councils are very near and dear to your heart. You always tackle these issues at your committees, at your board meetings, and on planning and land use issues. I'm very fortunate to have a planning commissioner for the Valley area, former planning commissioner, Quinville Ramirez.
Hi, how are you? Good evening. I'm Quinville Ramirez, and I'm the only former commissioner here. I actually started out in the city just by volunteering. I work in the private sector, I always have, but I tell people I'm a product of LAUSD. I grew up from pre-K to high school. I went to Occidental College, got my master's from Cal Poly Pomona, and just fostering volunteerism and just enriching your community with my stepchildren, my children now. So we used to volunteer just city cleanups. The next thing I knew, I was recruited to run in the Sylmar Neighborhood Council. I've lived in the Valley my whole life, But Sylmar is a very unique community, I have to say, just by acreage, elevation, just it's urban, it's suburban. You know, part the only city that you can still have chickens and horses, and still, you know, have city and county parks. We're surrounded by 4 main freeways, so we can be, you know, in Malibu in 45 minutes, or we can be in the mountains and, you know, Angeles Crest in 30 minutes. Just by volunteering, being on the neighborhood council, during my time on the neighborhood council, our community actually had 3 back-to-back fires. We served as the point of contact for supporting our police officers and fire department in evacuating Oak Ridge Mobile Home Park. We lost 500 homes there. So in 500 homes, it means 500 families. And we had to set up a support command post, and this is way before the Red Cross even showed up. So it was the neighborhood council that supported their neighbors in setting up the evacuation center. And in doing that and being able to be in the community, we were able to recruit over 200 high school students that volunteered with us, along with working with Recs and Parks. So when you're in the community, you get that support. People want to help you. With that, at the time it was under Mayor Villaraigosa, and he recognized the leadership the neighborhood council provided in supporting the community, and we were recognized as neighborhood council of the year. So we were the only one, I think, during that time, and it was for that work. And later on, an opportunity came up in planning, and he learned that I was a landscape architect by profession, and that's when he asked if I would be interested. So I didn't solicit the commission seat. It kind of found me, and I served. We do have very controversial, as Ms. Barad says, with planning and land use. I think at one point we had a meeting at City Hall. There were over 200 community members from Braude Hills, and they pretty much were yelling at us, and you know, a lot of things that I don't want to repeat here, but pretty much that we're paid, and you know, we need to support them. And I remember at one point a community member stood up and said, you know, actually no, they're not paid. They're here doing it, you know, to help the community. So the more you educate yourself, the more you see that we're a resource, because we are volunteering, except for Mr. James here. He definitely does volunteer too. You do put in a lot of time. I mean, at times before a project, I would head out for Miracle Mile, drive into the valley, because I live in the valley, so I represent the valley, and all the projects are from the North Valley. I would drive around, look at the sites, make sure that I educated myself in what was going to come before us. I wanted to make sure that I had as much knowledge as the community members did. Obviously, we couldn't speak to anyone because they're still under the Brown Act, so there's all these other codes and laws that you will learn as you go along. You know, you'll learn parliamentary procedures if you don't know them already. You'll learn about the Brown Act, you'll learn about code of conduct, so all these other issues and laws that regulate neighborhood councils and commissions. But I would personally take it as if it was a job that I'm being paid for, and drive around and look at the projects and make sure that I was going to make an educated decision. We're a 5-member commission, but I wanted to make sure that my vote counted for whichever direction it went, you know. And should it be a good project based on the planners, I wanted to make sure that occurred as well. Or if, for us, we had to make sure that the ZA or the zoning administrator didn't err, because some issues are kind of subjective. And so you want to make sure that you can ask the ZA, you know, point blank, did you make it based on this? How did you make that decision? Because the community wants to know, how did they make that decision? And so you have to be able to have that knowledge to ask those questions. So I can just say that I think I did my time. I take it as if it's another job. And so if you do get appointed, you know, it's not, we're just not here to have lunch and shake hands. We take it seriously. It's a full-time job. I work and then come volunteer full-time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's give her a big round of applause. We have an amazing panel. You heard from them sharing their opening experiences and all the work that they've done in the community for many years. Now we're going to ask them some questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience for questions. So panelists, what makes a candidate competitive and qualified for a commission appointment?
I'll start. I really think it's your experience. I mean, that's something that the city wants. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're looking for. It depends on the type of commission. For example, at Public Works, the newest commissioner that was just appointed, her name is Luis Rivas, who has experience. She had a nonprofit, DIY Girls, in Panorama City, and she has deep ties with the community. She also happens to be an engineer from MIT, and so obviously she works with the Bureau of Engineering. As president of the Board of Public Works, typically if there's a lawyer on the Board of Public Works, sometimes there's more than one, sometimes you may have 3 or 4. I'm the only attorney on the Board of Public Works. The legal background, particularly as a litigator, is very helpful for the Board of Public Works in dealing with the city contracting issues and the public contracting code. Quinn talked about being on the Planning Commission. Her experience as a landscape architect fits well with the Planning Commission. Typically the city's going to look for, a semblance, a matching of skill set. But remember what Mayor Garcetti said to Jill as she described it. Mayor Garcetti wants to, and is continuing to reform the DWP. Jill has a career and a reputation and awards that cover pages of work because of work that she's done reforming things. And she was very modest, and she was saving our time, but when she was talking about what they did to create Vank and the resistance that they got, and the fact that she's been so successful doing that, and it's carried to the point that it's one of the most influential coalitions in the city, that's the kind of person that you want, an experienced person with a track record. And so it's a resume in essence. But sometimes people will know about your resume because they're familiar with you already. But again, if you would like to be on a commission, don't necessarily wait for the call, but send your resume in.
Thank you, Commissioner James. Commissioner Shaffer.
Well, I'll agree with Kevin on that. Number one is your experience, but I think it's also your interest. And also what he said, don't wait. I originally, I sort of got volunteered by someone who many years ago got me onto the Tarzana Property Owners Association and began to learn the city and learn how to do things and get around. And when neighborhood councils got started, I was active there. And there was a review commission that came up. They were going to take a look at them. And I decided that this is something I really liked and was interested in. So I convinced my then council member, Dennis Ide, to appoint me as his commissioner to that. And I had a good time with it. I learned a lot. And I found that I did have a lot of interest. So that when an opening came for the South Valley representative on the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, I actively went forward because I thought it was something I would like to do. And I've got Jill to thank also for helping me with that step up. And now I didn't get a call from there because my original appointment was from Mayor Villaraigosa. But I did get a call from the mayor's office because it was, hi, are you interested in being retained? And it was yes. Good. Tell us why. Resubmit. Let us know what you want to do. And as Kevin was saying, it's something you really apply for. It's something you say, yes, this is what I want to do. And this is what I'd like to be active in. And yes, I have had the experience, and this is why I think I could do a good job in this. And that is one way that you get onto a commission.
Yeah, I would suggest that if you want to be on a commission, that you go on the city's website and look at all the different commissions that are there and see which ones strike, your interest. I mean, there's animal welfare, which personally I couldn't do because emotionally it would be really hard for me. But I see somebody here on the front row that I know would be wonderful on that commission. Jeff, you would be great. Because that's what he does. He works so hard with animals. But see what looks good to you. One of my friends is on the Rec and Parks Commission, and she really cares about the parks. And so, she's raised 3 boys, and she cares about the parks, and she loves it. So what's your passion? What's your interest? Now, in my case, I didn't know anything about water and power. And most of my fellow commissioners, there's 5 of us, didn't know either. So it's been a very steep learning curve for all of us. First of all, it's very complicated, very confusing, especially the power side. Everything is either water or power. Now water, you know what water is. You can kind of touch it and feel it, you see it. Power, that's another thing. And, we've had lots and lots of briefings. But, there are a lot of engineers. The men, they're engineers, no offense. A lot of acronyms, and they think we all know what all of that means, and your eyes glaze over. And I discovered early on, I would say, excuse me, what does that mean? Because I didn't know what it meant. One of the people on our commission is an environmental attorney. He understands a lot of what's being said. And he is Black. We have the president, is a former congressman, and he's an attorney downtown. He was where I was. He didn't know water or power. Then we have a woman who works downtown as a realtor, commercial realtor. And the 5th person is an executive director of a foundation, a nonprofit foundation. But the 5 of us, like Kevin said, we all come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and we really meld, we really work together. We ask very hard questions of the staff. We don't rubber stamp anything, and we get along really fine. We have a lot of respect for one another. And I think that's what makes our commission so good, is the fact that we have so much respect for each other, and we do our homework. We really study. We walk into those meetings with those big binders, and we've read it, and we ask good questions, and I think that's what's important. If you're going to do it, be serious about it, and pick the one that really sounds good to you.
Thank you.
It's pretty much been said. I was fortunate under Villaraigosa, our commission, we had urban planner, we had an engineer, we had a realtor, a developer, and then myself. So with our different backgrounds, and I believe all 5 of us actually received the call. I don't believe anybody submitted a resume to be on the commission, and we were appointed based on our reputation and our experiences out in the community. So when they say your reputation precedes you, make sure it's a good reputation, because you never know when it's gonna come back on you. And be prepared though, that once you serve on commission, you continue to serve. Right now, I still serve on the Prop K Budget Oversight Committee for the city, based on my background. I've served on the El Carrizo Park Advisory Committee for the county. I also serve on the Mission Community Police Council. So just be prepared that once you do accept a appointment, that your services will still be needed elsewhere. And also once you are on a commission, that you pay it forward, recommend somebody else that could do it. Because again, take it seriously, as Ms. Broad said. You want to make sure that you're doing a service to your community and you're representing them well. Like I said, I used to walk those properties and make sure I read every single thing, our city secretary sent us, or our city clerk. I made sure I educated myself. I made sure I walked into that meeting prepared, especially to take questions from the community. Sometimes we were here until 10, 11 o'clock at night, so don't think that because it's posted at a certain time that once you're done serving, you're done. Sometimes you're here until 10, 11 o'clock at night answering questions from the public, and also asking questions from, the city. As Jill said, we don't rubber stamp it. We want to make sure that, we take it seriously. We're here for you, as they say.
Thank you so much. A lot of amazing insights from our former commissioners here, and a lot of them have talked about their experiences on different panels as well. So you heard from Glenn, he was on the design review panel. So some of the council officers can also appoint folks onto historic preservation overlay zones, to other committees that are there. And then the mayor makes the majority of the appointments, probably about 90% of them in the city. But really, there's ways for you to get involved and really get back to the city. So we're going to open up the questions now.
Real quick, Michael, on that one point, and Lynn made an excellent point. It's not just the mayor's office. Yes, the mayor has the appointment authority, and the city council confirms the commission. You go through not just the city council hearing, but you have a committee hearing as well. And you have to meet with the council office that is where you live, and if they chair that committee that relates to that commission, you meet with them before your hearing. But the mayor's office regularly goes to every council office to look for nominations for commissions. So you don't just have to have a contact with the mayor's office. If you have a relationship with your council office, whether it's the council member himself or herself, or one of the staff members, that's another way to get an introduction to the system as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're going to open up to questions. Yes.
Are there term limits for any of the commissions, and then is there a maximum amount of people that can be the commissioner on one commission?
That's a really good question. I'll answer first because my term is up in June. I think I get to go back to the committee. For the Board of Public Works, they're 5-year terms. There's no term limit. But once you start, you don't automatically, when Mayor Garcetti won the election, there was no retention of previous Public Works commissioners. He cleared the way for all 5 that he wanted to appoint. So one of us you step into a seat that was somebody else's, and it's their turn that you step into. So I remember it was Commissioner Rodriguez stepped into a 1-year term. So we started in July, and next June, she was back in the city council in the hearing and the full council. The next year was Barbara Romero and then Matsebo, who have now become deputy mayors. But now I stepped into a 4-year term that matched the mayor's, and so I'm up in June for hearing and reconfirmation. So I have to be confirmed by the council again. And I think the other commissions are that way as well.
We're staggered, but I was appointed for 5 years, so my term is up 2018. And however, you're appointed by the mayor, you can be hired by the mayor as well. And now when the mayor is, let's say, re-elected next year, then he can reappoint us or not reappoint us. It's up, to the mayor. Some of my fellow commissioners had shorter terms than mine, so they've done what Kevin said. They've gone for a reconfirmation with the city council. Yeah.
And the same for the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. It's a 5-year term. There's no limitation. I stepped into someone's term, and I was asked about being reappointed not that long ago, and said yes, I'd like to be, and so I was, and we went through the whole process again. But what I've seen also is that, and I think Kevin mentioned it, is that once you're on a commission, you may be asked if you'd like to move to another commission. One of our current commissioners has been on, I think, 3 other commissions. And she was asked if she'd like to fill a slot on ours. I guess she was offered and came back on. So it's all up to the mayor.
And when I came on, Eric let go 4 of the commission, DWP, and kept 1 person. That was Antonio Viragosa's person. So she is still on there, on our commission. But then there are 4 of us that are new, that we started. We're now into our 4th year.
Thank you. Yes.
This question is for Mr. Ramirez. Were you a member of the American Planning Association when you were on the commission, or was anyone on the commission part of the American Planning Association? Did that help you do your job?
I don't believe so. Like for me, I'm a part of the American Society of Landscape Architects, and I'm also an arborist. So it varies on your background, but I would say it's not like, for me, I did submit a resume, so it wasn't as if the mayor went through and looked to see if I was the candidate. He went through his staff to see what was my experience in the community, what did I do professionally, did I volunteer, what was my civic engagement. And so that's what he went through. Then later on, when you go through confirmation, then, all of your information, your CV does come up, like where did you go to college, so all that information does come up later, but not initially for me. So my experience was a little different than the rest of my commissioners. But I would say every little bit helps. And if you're just starting out, a recommendation I would make is to look at the city website and go to the commissions. There's some seats that are vacant. Look at those and see if you are a fit for that, and then create your CV, your resume, and submit it to the mayor's office. Or if you do have a relationship with your council office. For example, I serve on Prop K, and that's through former Councilmember Felipe Fuentes, but this was an appointment made a few years ago. So I'll still serve on it, I assume, until we have a new council member for CD7.
I was just going to make one pitch before I forget. I'm happy to borrow good ideas from other commissions. Len mentioned the fact that the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners does their meetings around the various neighborhood council districts and council districts in the city, such that when we took office, we started doing the same thing. We do it quarterly, and we visit, we take the Board of Public Works and a bureau director from all of our bureaus and work with a council office to do one of our Board of Public Works meetings in that specific council district, and we do that quarterly.
Awesome. Thank you.
In the evening, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't do it. Our meetings are at 10 a.m., but we do that. When we go out to the community, we do it at 5:30, 6 p.m., whatever the council office wants.
Awesome. Thank you. Questions?
The city of Los Angeles for quite a long time has had a problem with deteriorating streets and sidewalks. I'm wondering if you know, is the city of Los Angeles going to get a big part of that done for Prop M passes?
Not really. I mean, you've asked the question. That's not really the topic of the panel. I'm happy to answer the question since you've asked it. I did not solicit the question, by the way. Yes, the local return dollars, there's 17% local return dollars. And the local return, that for every community in the county. The city, of that 70% local return dollars, the city of Los Angeles will get 38% of that money. That's based on population. Of the local return dollars that come to the city of Los Angeles, there is currently a council motion that has been filed for requesting 2/3 of the local return money be spent on roads and pavement preservation in the city of Los Angeles. So it's a priority for the mayor's office, and I know it's a priority for some council members, and I anticipate that, I just know because I'm involved in the discussions, that a significant portion of the local return money will go just for that. And by the way, if you read the ballot measure language from Measure M, that's something that is featured in the ballot measure language. I happened to do a presentation just the other night at the North Hills West Neighborhood Council with Dan there, and when you go through the list of the freeways that are going to get work as well, it sounds like an auction. I mean, it's every number that you could imagine. 5, the 10, the 110, the 405. I mean, it sounds like an auctioneer up there. But yes, to your question on local return dollars for local streets.
Thank you. Other questions for our commissioners? Anybody? Yes.
You guys all sound very diligent and sound like you take your jobs as commissioners very seriously. But I wonder, since these are all appointed positions, if you ever experience people that don't take it so seriously or aren't as diligent, and what the ramifications are. My experience when I was on the neighborhood council was there were too many people that didn't take it seriously and didn't even read the motions before our meeting on things that we were going to be voting on, and it was very frustrating. And I wonder, you know, if it's a higher level of higher caliber volunteer at your level.
Yeah, well, I would think almost any board has that problem. Not everyone is as engaged as they should be, and certainly not on the neighborhood councils. I mean, there are people on neighborhood councils that run who've never been to a neighborhood council meeting. And you say, why? And then they're not good, they do not become good board members because they really don't know what they've gotten themselves into and perhaps don't take it seriously. But I think on our commission level, it is a higher level. And I think that I can see when I look at a lot of commissions that the mayor has really gone, and his staff gone out of their way to balance the commissions. I mean, it's very, very impressive how balanced they are. And I believe now that the commissions in the city are almost 50% women.
Mm-hmm. Over 50%.
Over 50?
Over 50%.
Yeah. And so that's, you know, that's really something, because it used to be, you know, just a lot of men. Now it's over 50% women as well. And using my commission as an example, very well balanced. You know, we have 2 Jews, a gay, a black, a white guy. I mean, you know, so when they talk about diverse, we are really diverse. And you look at the other commissions, they're really diverse. And I am very, very impressed, you know, with that. Now, that being said, and the background and the level, the achievement of people, it's very, very impressive. Every once in a while, somebody gets appointed to a commission and you say, what was he thinking? And the only thing I can think of is somebody was lobbying on their behalf and they got on. And sometimes they don't last too long. But, you know, I feel on my commission and my role is that I'm the advocate. I know we have a ratepayer advocate, but I think of myself as the ratepayer advocate. To me, that's the most important thing, that our utility is owned by the ratepayers. And I'm always looking at every project to say, is this fair? Is this equitable? And determining the policy for DWP, I have the community and the ratepayers at heart, and I think my fellow commissioners, you know, do as well. And that's why we really respect each other.
I'll talk to the question just for a moment, because we're on the paid commission and the Board of Public Works. It's easier frankly, for the mayor's office, which is our reporting authority, our appointing authority, to make sure that we are all 5 engaged. We're city employees, and we are paid, and we have that responsibility, and it's a full-time 5 days, 6 days, 7 day week, depending on what might be happening over the weekend with your respective bureau or council districts. So it's a bit easier for us than it is for a volunteer commission. And I can just say that, to Jill's point, on the work that the mayor's staff has done with our appointments. I'm just sitting as the president of the commission now in year 4. I'm very pleased with the performance and the results of the mayor's appointments for the Board of Public Works. But it's easier again for us because we're being paid for it. We're not the volunteers.
I will say where I am, but we're a little bit different. We're a non-management committee. In other words, we don't manage the department we work with. We have a nice relationship with the department. We depend on them, and in some ways they depend on us. What I find interesting is that not so much people who don't do anything or don't come prepared, but the differing backgrounds, especially on our commission, and the differing interests that the various commissioners have. So while they may not take a great interest in one particular area, when something else comes up, you can see that that's an area that they're prepared for and that they want to ask questions about. And so they get very active there. So that's what I've seen with ours.
And if I can also add quickly, even though it may be a different caliber of individuals who volunteer at the commission level and the neighborhood council level, just speaking from experience, serving 6 years on the Summer Neighborhood Council, it's up to your president and your vice president who's chairing the meetings to run, as Mr. James is the president of Public Works Commission, I'm sure he chairs it, makes sure that his colleagues are engaged, are also supportive, are also being resourceful with, the city. So really, it's up to you, whoever on your neighbor council, whether it's a 10 body or a 20-something body, it's up to your president and your vice president, and really it's the public. These are the folks you elected, so you do have a voice in who's showing up. And look at the bylaws, educate yourself. See, if they're not showing up to meetings, you should be concerned. Are they taking it seriously? And they're taking up a seat that could be filled by somebody else who is willing to do the work. So it's up to you to educate yourself about your commission, your neighborhood council.
Thank you. Jeff?
Does the general manager of the department have a say or a veto over who's appointed to a commission?
Not ours.
Not
ours. Yeah.
I can speak for the Board of Public Works. The answer was, with this administration, not a say, not a veto, and I don't think even a consultation.
We met with the general manager. We've had, in my 4 years, this is for now, and I think our third general manager.
Oh, in just your 4 years.
Is that right? Yeah.
All 5 are still there.
Yeah. So we met each time with the prospective general manager in closed session, talked to them, and then made a recommendation to the mayor whether they should be hired.
For the general manager.
The general
That's the other direction.
It's the other direction.
The other direction.
They don't have any say over
I know for us that they didn't because they're always in my ear. Hey, have you heard who the new commissioner's going to be? So they obviously have no clue.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, there's an army of volunteers in Los Angeles, except for you, Mr. James. Here's part of the army, and neighborhood council, part of the army. And I'm wondering if there's any consideration being given to at least a stipend for commissioners that would help defray the out-of-pocket expenses. And you come at time, but I bet they're out of pocket as well. And I just wondered if there's any consideration for that, so that it wouldn't be a paid position, but at least it would acknowledge that
Can I say 2 things?
Go right ahead.
Number one, although he may be paid, I can guarantee you that there's a lot of volunteerism there, because I know what he could be compensated for other work that he could be doing right now, and the number of days he works. As far as a stipend, I don't know about the other commissioners, but I gave mine back to the city because of the budgetary crisis, and so no, we don't get any. We've agreed to waive it. We've agreed to waive
Get a
it.
stipend?
No, we did.
You did get a stipend?
No, I never got it.
But I mean, you could have.
Yeah, it was, there was, for the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, there was a $50 per month stipend, and that was to compensate you for the gas and the travel, because it was 2 nights a week, 2 nights a month, and when I became a commissioner, it was, hi, do you agree to give that up? And of course you said yes. So,
One answer to that.
as a matter of fact, at one, I can't remember I was at a board meeting in the Valley, and I went to say something after the meeting, and one of the board members looked at me and said, I just found out you're not paid to do this. So it's always interesting.
Most people think that DWP commissioners are paid.
They should be.
And we're not. Now, there's a ballot measure from RRR that will be on the November ballot, that if that passes, then there will be a stipend for DWP.
It's just for DWP, not for the other commissioners. Yeah.
It's DWP.
I mean, the other commissions.
Right, it's DWP and it's a monthly stipend, yeah.
And by the way, there has been some discussion over the years among the council offices. I don't know about prior mayors on whether they've considered a stipend, a meeting type stipend for the commissions. But it has, I don't think it hasn't, the reason I don't think it's made it to the surface of beyond maybe perhaps a motion for a study, just because of the number of commissioners, the amount of the budget dollars it would take, is it's significant, and that I think that's probably been one of the key reasons that it hasn't been done.
It would kind of defeat the purpose of why we're volunteering, which is to give back and to support reducing the budget. I think it would be a nice gesture to have a stipend, but honestly, if you're doing it, you should be established enough in your professional or private career that you can do this. I think it keeps the playing field fair. It keeps us more neutral. We do have to complete our Form 700. And just so you know, it's not just us, it's our spouses as well. So it keeps the playing field fair. You know that there's no conflict of interest. You know that we're here to serve our community that we live in and we represent.
And those Form 700s are reviewed by the press and and other consumer watchdog groups.
Public.
It is public.
It's public. But you know, the flip side of that is that a lot of commissioners, and I'll speak for my commission, could make a lot more money if they weren't serving on the commission. You know, that they're from law firms, whatever, nonprofits, whatever. I know my firm, because of the time involved in serving on the commission, so you don't have all that time to serve professionally, work professionally. And the other thing is that you're precluded from certain things because of the ethics and the conflict of interest. In my case, I'm not allowed to raise any money for anyone running for any city office. I can't raise money, I can't solicit money, I can't give money for anyone. So on one hand, it saves me money, I don't have to give contributions. On the other hand, I can't act as a political fundraiser either. So that's something to take into consideration. But I think all of us on my commission, I know our president works for one of the top law firms in the city. He could make a lot of more money if he wasn't on that commission. But I think there's something there, the reason that we want to serve, that we want to serve our city, and we really think we're making a difference.
And it's with each and every one of you too, serving on the neighborhood councils. You guys are working hard each and every day out there as well. So the commissioners up here and each of you in the audience. Time for one last question, sir.
At the commission level, is there any intersection with party politics or party history?
Well, as the one Republican on the Board of Public Works, the answer would be no. And certainly with what we do, you know, I will mention that one of the things about Mayor Garcetti, one of the things I liked about candidate for Mayor Garcetti was he was attracted to, and still is, to differing opinions and different positions. You know, if you look at some of the mayor's senior staff, we just appointed a new pair of deputy mayors for economic development, but prior to that, the mayor appointed a former Republican state assembly as deputy mayor for public safety, Jeff Gorell. I joked with Jeff, I'm like, and I know of a few others in the administration too at senior levels. I said, we've got enough for a caucus now. You know, and so, and I mention those and provide those examples. I mean, these are people I know that I work with that are in senior staff positions in the administration, and it is it's not an issue for us at all. What does happen sometimes is we do have issues that come before the state legislature, that come before the United States Congress, where they will approach us for assistance. There was an issue that came up before the United States Senate regarding water policy, and the mayor's office wanted me to communicate with people that I knew in my party that were in various Senate offices. And I made those calls and spoke to those offices and their representatives. And I do the same thing in dealing with the state legislature when we're looking for votes for something that we need people to cross the aisle to support. But other than that, it has not been an issue at all. And this is a term you hear and the mayor uses it regularly. There's no Republican or Democrat way for us in Public Works to fill a pothole.
That's right. Yeah. And it's never come up on my commission, DWP. I think except for our president, who was a United States congressman, I really don't know the political party of everyone, and we don't talk about it, and it doesn't come up on the things that we vote on every contract for DWP, and it's really not a political, we don't get into anything political.
While we're on the subject of political parties, though, I would mention that it wasn't in Jill's CV here. Well, in just the last few days, she was selected as the Los Angeles County Democrat of the Year. Not kidding.
But so my best friend.
I was going to say that I think in the years past, you may have seen some party affiliation beneficial, but especially with this mayor, and even with Mayor Villaraigosa, it just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. I must say I'm probably the most conservative member of our commission when I look around at the other commissioners, but we all get around, and nobody seems to really care about that.
I was not the most conservative member of my commission, but I was the only Republican. There were at least two Democrats that were more conservative than me. Oh, yeah.
Great insights here. We've had so many great remarks from our commissioners at this time.
Can I just say one thing? Let me say just one thing. I don't know if there's a wrap-up.
Oh yeah, this was going to be the wrap-up.
Oh, okay. Then I'll say
We've had so many great insights from our commissioners here. I would like to give each of them a minute. Any parting words of advice that you'd like to give to our aspiring commissioners?
Okay. I'm going to say that I spent 35 years basically in community service. I was one of the white hat guys. I was a deputy district attorney for the county of Los Angeles, so I thought I was doing a lot for the community. But I have found that this is really a give back way. It's really great. The city and the county were good to me. I'm not going to say how many years I've lived in this city. I've watched it develop and change and move from the west side to the valley and watch the valley change and develop and find new friends and everything. But doing what I'm doing in this commission, and I think it just about with any of the commissions, it's a very, very nice way to give back to your community and to give back to your city.
Yeah, I would echo that, and people say to me, why would you want to be on the DWP commission? And I think it's because I feel I'm making a difference. And that's, I think, part of public service, is that you are making a difference. And that's, I think, makes it all worthwhile. I love it. It's intense. I have to tell you, when I get up in the morning for the last 4 years now, there's my coffee and all my newspapers, and I say, God, please don't make there be anything on the front page about DWP. But even with all of that, I still think that it's really, I feel honored and I feel privileged to be on the commission. And I would urge you all to put your names in and try to serve on a commission. I think you're going to get a great reward from being on a commission.
Thank you, Jill. I would also mention that you can serve as Jill Cruz. I mean, she's the president of the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, and she's on the board for the DWP. You can do both. You don't have to leave your neighborhood council seat to serve on a commission. So if you're interested, I would say do it now. That's my advice. I want to talk, though, for the time I have left, about something else that we discussed this evening that I would recommend people do if you are willing to put in the time and the commitment to do it. I have said and will continue to say, and maybe I'll be fortunate enough in my life that I'll be able to add to it, but the decision to run for mayor and going through that campaign was the best professional decision I have made in my life. It changed my life in ways that I never expected. I didn't win the election, obviously. But as Mayor Garcetti says, I came in a close third. But that opened up so many other doors. And you see your community and you see whether you're running citywide or you're running in your council district or in your school board district or in your community college district, you do see your community in a different way. And you learn things out of necessity and out of survival in a campaign and out of challenges from your opponents, because it's part of the campaign process about yourself. And as Jill mentioned, even about your friends, and who might be your friends in the future, when you start to ask some of them for money, or even for their endorsement. And the learning curve, everybody, it doesn't matter how long you're in office, if you're an experienced politician, for a new office, there is a learning curve. I always say don't run against incumbents. I wouldn't, and there was not an incumbent in that race. Now, there were people that were elected, but the incumbent was Mayor Barad, and he was turned down. So seek if you are interested, you'd be interested in one or the other. And I've been fortunate to get to have done both. I ran for office and I sit on a commission. But those of you that might be thinking about, because I listened to your questions when Jill gave her presentation and when Mike talked about the city clerk issues. And I know that there is interest in this room about running for office. And let me tell you, I'll close with this. If you are thinking about running for office, do not be shy about it. And people are, because they're not sure, and there are valid reasons to be. Maybe they don't want their job to know, hey, if I'm going to run for city council, that means I'm going to have to leave the job I'm in. That's a real consideration you have to make. But make that decision as soon as possible in your campaign, so once you do decide to run, you can go in with both feet. Because it really is a challenging thing to do, but it's so rewarding. And it's incredibly rewarding even if you don't win. And I think that most people, if you talk to just people that have lost elections, they would tell you that's the same thing. I know Ron Galpin would, Joe. You talked about the fact that Ron ran for CD5. I think he came in fourth in that CD5 race. But look at what he learned. Look at what he was able to do from
the
that.
friends he made.
Right, and the relationships from that. And it forces you to go to people and to ask them to sit down with you for coffee, to convince, to sell yourself to them, or to sell your vision for what your community can be to them and why it's worth it to hear from you. And it's a great, just a great exercise in our civic society.
If you lose, but you run a good race, the way Ron did, the way Kevin did when he ran for mayor, then you really won, because people will remember you, that you ran a good race. You said something, they'll remember, they were impressed with you, and look at Kevin, a star.
No, that's the actor with his name on the bus.
I
would like to have his
I have to tell you that Kevin and I we've gone places together in a car, and the two of us, we talk about that we have a volunteer position. As soon as we see a truck in the street, the both of us have to look. And I say, are those my peeps? Because I say to Debbie, and he'll say, no, those are my peeps. They're fixing that street. So you live with it all the time. It becomes really a part of it.
You look at your community differently.
You really do. You really do.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what else to say besides echoing everything that the commissioners to my right have said. You're obviously there because you have a passion and you care about your community, and however you serve, wherever you can serve, it's your experiences, whether positive or negative, it's still going to be an experience. I've learned on the neighborhood council, as much as it was positive, I learned a lot of what not to do as well. In being able to stay neutral as best as I can, and take the appointment seriously always, and make your decision, even though you have a passion for it, try to make it not based on emotions. Really look at it, because that's what the city is looking at it, speaking from a planning perspective. A lot of times I would ask the ZA, well, how did you make this decision? And he would say, well, if it was, 35 feet, we added another 5 feet, it wasn't going to be such. So you kind of have to look at it from their perspective. But then the community is yelling, going, that's too much, that's too high. So they're looking at it from an emotional perspective of what is impeding upon their vision. So all I can say is, however your experience is, wherever you can volunteer, just do it, get in there, and you really do learn from it. You understand what the other side is looking at, and you can make better decisions as a community. And like they said, strength in numbers. That's what the neighborhood council is about, I have to say. You have to do it in numbers.
Thank you so much to our panelists for sharing their amazing stories, their awesome insights. They're all amazing public servants for the great city of Los Angeles. So thank you guys very much for sharing your time.
Thank you for inviting us.
Your experiences, we really appreciate it. Give me another round of applause. And now I'd like to bring up Orlando from the Personnel Department. He's going to talk about the process of how to get a city job. Okay.
Before I get started with my presentation, I just want to thank everybody, commend all of you guys for serving in your neighborhood councils. I know you guys do important work in your native communities, so I really do appreciate it and thank everybody. Okay, everybody. Hello, how are you guys? My name's Orlando. I work for the personnel department for the city of Los Angeles. I know it's getting kind of late, so I'm going to go through this quickly, but I'll leave my phone number in case you guys have any further questions after I'm done with my presentation. So I'm here to provide you guys with some good information on how to find job opportunities with the city of Los Angeles. I know you guys do a great job in your particular neighborhoods. And a lot of the skills that you acquire can be translatable into city employment. So I'm here to give you guys some good information on how to find the job opportunity that may be the dream job for you guys. So this is a snapshot or a sample of the different entry-level positions that the city offers. And I actually have a copy for you guys. And it does provide you with good information on what type of positions are available in the city. And it's categorized by the different trades. So depending on what your background is, your interest, then you can definitely find something in the city. This is a very good resource to have. So please, look at it, and it's again, it's very good information to have.
I'm sorry, where do you have that? Where do you have it out there?
It was on the on the table.
Oh.
Yes. That's it. Yes. Okay, so the main point of contact in order to find information on what job opportunities are available with the city is our website. Our website address is per.lacity.org. So once, this is a snapshot of our homepage. So once you go on our website, the place you want to go to is Find Jobs. So it's really easy, right on our homepage. So if you click on Find Jobs, it's going to take you to our Job Center page. And this is where you're going to be able to find the job listings that are currently available in the city. So for current job openings that are civil service, that's the link you want to go to. So again, civil service are permanent, full-time job opportunities with the city. If you're looking for maybe an exempt job opportunity, exempt are maybe temporary positions or part-time, then you would go to the exempt jobs listing there. There's also a notification for upcoming jobs. This is a system where you can request to be notified in case a job is currently not open for filing. Just keep in mind, typically for a city employment, there's a 2-week filing period where you can submit your application. So it's all about timing, finding out when the job opportunity is going to be available, and then submitting your application within that 2-week filing period. So you definitely want to keep that in mind as you start looking for a job opportunity. So that's current job openings where you have the current job listings. And then we have also a link for those of you who are currently city employees and are civil service. There's a listing where we only provide information on promotional opportunities that are only available to current city employees. So that's where you'll find that information. And then we have, again, the exempt jobs that I mentioned. So a lot of the council office staff, the mayor's office staff, they're exempt positions because they're temporary in nature. So that's, you can find information there as well, job opportunities. And then we have executive jobs for those of you who have an executive background or have a lot of experience in management. That's where you'll be able to find some of the executive level positions in the city, like general manager, assistant general managers, deputies. All those positions will be listed there. And this is, once you click on the jobs open to all, this is what the job listing is going to look like. So it's categorized, it's alphabetical, and then once you find the job opportunity that you are interested in, you click on the title, and then it'll bring up this page, and this is where you're going to look at the job announcement with all the information on the requirements. The critical part is looking at the requirements, make sure that you do meet the requirements, and then once you you feel that you do meet the qualifications, then you can go ahead and apply right there by clicking on the green button there on top. Okay, another good information to be aware of is we do have an exam information database, and the important thing about the database is it's going to tell you what are the upcoming examinations in the city. So that'll give you an indication of when it's going to open filing, And you can start planning submitting your application during the calendar period. So it has a listing of all what we call the master calendar, which is basically the upcoming examinations or class recruitments, if you will. And then on the examination database, you can filter based on the different departments who are requesting the job opportunities, and also the class title or job classification title. Okay. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if there's a job that you're interested in and it's currently not available, you can always request a notification, and then once it opens for filing, then we'll notify you by email. So that system is available on our website as well. Okay, so this is how you find it. Again, you go to our job center, and there's a link there, notification for upcoming exams. Okay, and this is just basically a snapshot of the notification system. So once you click there, it'll give you a listing of all the job classes in the city. You find the one that you're interested in, you click on the title, and then you complete a short form, and then you'll receive an email once it opens for filing. Okay, so that's all for me. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes?
Do you have civil service, if you're not civil service, do you take civil service exam and therefore be?
Yeah, definitely. So if you are interested in a civil service position, then you would have to apply first. Make sure you meet the qualifications, the minimum requirements set by the job announcement. And then once you meet the criteria, then you're invited to take an examination.
Oh, that's the exam you were talking about, was the civil service exam?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I am the vice chair for my planning and land use committee.
Okay.
How often do you guys, that I'm looking for a job in the city plan?
Okay.
How often? It seems like what I've noticed is when I look at the job qualifications, they want paid experience, as if they're dismissing my volunteer experience. So, can you speak to that?
Yeah, typically the city only accepts paid experience to be qualifying. There are certain classifications where volunteer experience can be accepted in lieu of paid experience. I'm not sure if planning allows for that, but yeah, typically it has to be full-time paid experience.
But you might also request a degree.
Yes, depending on the type of position, some of them require to have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree in a specific field. Yeah, that's related to the classification that you. Yeah.
So for the exams, once you look at the calendar, what's the usual process for actually applying for it?
So yeah, once you find the job that you're interested in, you're going to submit your application where you're going to provide all information on your work experience, education, and then based on that, we make a determination of whether you meet the qualifications that are set. And if you do meet the qualifications, then you are invited to take an examination. The exam can consist of a variety of different methods. It could be an interview, it could be a written test, essay form, performance test, depending on the job classification. And then once you take the test, if you pass, you're placed on an eligible list based on your performance. And then the departments that are requesting to fill the vacancies, they hire based on the score that you receive.
So, but the application will be available on the website?
Yeah, so all the applications, everything's online, so yeah, you would apply online.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes.
Going back to the degree.
Mm-hmm.
Can the city see, for example, can the city see instead of let's say the city's asking for a bachelor's degree on at a particular job that you're looking at, right?
Yes.
Can the city place that, like, say, years from job experience, like 15 years on that particular, job they're looking for?
Yes.
Or can they do that, or they gotta go with the bachelor's degree and they don't care about 15, 20, years off the
Yeah, it depends. If there is an education experience substitution, then it's going to be stated on the actual job bulletin, indicating that, let's say, for example, 1 year of experience can substitute for 1 year of education. So if you have 4 years of experience in a particular field, that can substitute for a degree. So it has to be stated on the bulletin though. So make sure you read the requirements and the notes to make sure that substitution
But the
clause.
city has that in there as qualification, that you can substitute that
Yeah.
with the experience you
On
have.
some jobs, yeah. Not all, but yeah, some of them do. Yes.
Okay, so back to planning,
Mhm.
because I'm interested in that.
Yes.
So I have an undergraduate degree in business, and I'm currently working on a master's at UCLA in architecture. But I
Okay.
don't have the actual experience other than what I'm gaining as my position on the commission, planning and land use. So I have the degree and I'm working on the master's, but I don't have the paid experience. So
Okay.
is there an internship? How do I, or an assistant position, assistant planning position, or associate? I mean, what are the requirements for at that
Right.
level?
Yeah, so for planning, I believe the entry-level position for that would be city planning associate. And I'm not sure off the top of my head what the requirements are, but typically it would be just a degree, education. So experience would not be necessary in that case.
Okay, and
Yes.
do you guys offer internships as well? Because that's a part of the curriculum at some
Well,
point.
yeah, we don't in the personnel department, but I know in the mayor's office they have an internship program.
Okay.
And also some of the council offices, they do offer some internship opportunities as well.
Yeah, I've noticed certain cities have
Yes.
certain departments that they'll give internships to, and some departments they don't. So
Yeah.
you're saying planning, you don't think?
Planning, I'm not sure about it, but I know the mayor's office, they do have an internship program, and I believe they may have a planning, section.
You rotate through different.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but, yeah, if you go on our website, yeah, you can find the internship opportunity information there as well. But, yeah, it's a possibility, yes.
Another quick question. Let's say you apply for this job.
Mhm.
You got an email saying, your test is gonna be scheduled in 2 weeks. Is there does the city offers kind of like a workshop on the test you're gonna have, so you can familiarize yourself with what kind of questions they're gonna ask you, so you can prepare yourself for it?
No, we don't. Not sponsored by the city. I know some of the employee associations or groups offer training opportunities or test preparation opportunities. We don't in the personnel department. But one key component of the job announcement is the selection process. So if you apply to a job, make sure you read that, because that's going to tell you what's going to be covered on the test. And that'll give you an indication of how you need to prepare for the examinations. Okay. Any other questions? And this is our contact information in case you have any additional questions later on. Feel free to call us. We also have a public counter where we can provide you with any information in regards to your application or job opportunities with the city.
Okay, we need you through this number.
Yeah, so if you call that number, you can ask for me. My name again is Orlando Lepe, and I'll be happy to speak to you and guide you on how to find a position. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for your attention. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Orlando. So actually, Ruben, on that question in regards to tests, if you guys know, if you want to go and try to for certain tests, please let us know, and we'll do our best to try to get you some test materials. Also, I know the Central Library, I think one of our staff, Kathleen, knows this. They have books on certain types of tests, maybe some like the management assistant, some of the entry-level tests. But I do know that there's test materials that are passed out around the city between employees in terms of study materials. So we can help you with that. Just let us know. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for coming tonight. I hope you got some great information. I want to again thank our staff. They're all about, but definitely Mike and our commissioners and our guests. I hope that again it's just very helpful for you, and we look forward to offering other workshops like this, and in order to help you get to your next level of public service. So again, thank you for your service to Neighborhood Council. We so appreciate you, and have a wonderful evening. Thanks.